Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We could have a roll call, please.
Mr. Dixon?
Here.
Mrs. Diglio? Here. Mrs. LaCroix? Here. Mrs. Teets? Here. Mayor Kus?
Here. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was provided to the two newspapers of record and posted on the official bulletin board on January 5th, 2024. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the minutes for the October 16th, 2024 regular meeting.
I'll offer the minutes from the October 16th meeting.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
There was some content missing, which I brought to the attention of Kat, and Kat added it to the minutes.
Excellent, thank you. A roll call?
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mrs. Diglio?
Yes.
Mrs. LaCroix?
Yes.
Mrs. Teets?
Yes.
Mayor Kus?
Yes. At this point in the meeting, the town council welcomes comments from any member of the public on any topic. In order to facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit the opportunity for anyone who wishes to be heard, speakers are asked to take one turn at the microphone and please limit their comments to 3 minutes. The clerk will keep time. If reading from a prepared statement, please provide a copy and email a copy to the clerk's office after making your comments, so it may be properly reflected in the minutes. Council may choose to comment after the entire public portion has concluded. Please identify yourself and spell your name, your last name, for the record. As is customary, we'll begin with anyone in person. Please step forward to the microphone if you'd like to speak.
Hello, good evening. Kristen Becker, spell my last name right?
Yes.
Beckerer, 5 Maple Avenue. I'm here tonight, just for a couple things. One, in thanks to the town and council, opened a business today. Had a great first day and happy to be here. Just a couple things. I've spoken to 3 of the 5 of you about a couple things just relative to what's going on in the town and affecting my one business, The Farmer's Daughter, directly with a neighbor. I also want to thank the construction and code enforcement for their help during this time. Just a couple things. I think that our concerns and not complaints, although I have felt kind of like the Karen of Newton recently, and I apologize for that because it's certainly not what I want to do, because everybody has been most responsive and kind. There's nothing political about this in any way, shape, or form, and I certainly appreciate the help we've been given. 155 Spring Street, I believe, which was my old building, so familiar with it, it has a roofing project going on that, has been kind of a detriment, and I know it's been actively being worked on. I guess I think the only thing that really has been concerning us and confusing us is that the work has continued, whether he was supposed to or not. And again, I think it's the lack of communication that we got, whether he was or wasn't. I wouldn't have called if I had known. However, Saturday there was raining sleet again. I did not bring it with me because I didn't want to be that person, but I picked up numerous pieces of debris with roofing nails and screws underneath my customers' tires that were over the sidewalk and into the street. Again, I appreciate all that's been done. He is not, thank you, a particularly good neighbor in my eyes, but again, I think if we could get some more communication back, I don't need to know all the gory details of your communication directly with him, but just an update maybe that we could get. So I maybe wouldn't have to make the phone calls or, reach out directly to another council member or something. I do appreciate everything that's been done, but we just feel like the work continued, whether it was supposed to be done or not. And we had no idea from anyone and the police didn't seem to have an idea on Saturday when it was going on. They said they didn't have access to stop work orders or anything like that. So it was just it was a little frustrating for us to deal with. I had customers that sitting outside and enjoying it, and they had insulation in their beverages. So again, it's things like this that, like I said, we want to be part of the town and we have thrived here. Thank you. But that's kind of our point with this. So thank you.
Thank you. If anyone else in person would like to speak, please indicate so by stepping forward. If anyone on Zoom would like to speak, please indicate so by raising your hand.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello?
Yes,
Do you,
we
okay,
can hear
good.
you, Dr. Mercado. Go ahead.
Yes, Ludmila Mercaj, 9 Madison Street. I have just a small question, more for information. I think I read in your calendar, you have, I think, free vaccine going on for the pets in November. I need to see the calendar again. But my question is that free? Really, you said it's a free vaccination? Who pays for that? It's a simple question.
Thank you, Dr. McCutcheon. If anyone else on Zoom would like to speak, please indicate so by raising your hand. Not seeing anyone, we'll close the first public session. We'll move on to council and manager reports, beginning with town manager Rizzo.
Thank you. Terry, you want to address the rabies clinic question?
Yeah, the rabies clinic is free for the vaccine. If you want a microchip, there's a cost of $25. The rabies vaccine, the serum is actually paid through the state. When we collect fees for cats and dog licensing, a portion of that goes to the state. And that's how they pay for the serum for everybody in the state that wishes to have a free rabies clinic.
Halloween parade is this Thursday, lineup 3:45 PM. Election day, good luck to all candidates. And election day, the offices are closed. Flags of honor, Saturday, November 9th here at 11 AM, Town Hall. Closed Veterans Day. Thank you to the veterans for their service. Next council meeting is 7 PM on Wednesday, November 13th. And Deb Danielson had a few items that also on November 9th, we have a recycling event. There's going to be waste fluid recycling, tire and rim recycling, light bulb recycling from 8 to 1. Paper shredding 9 to 1, free to residents of Newton. They'll be accepting new and gently used animal supplies for the animal control shelter. There's an Amazon registry for more information. And then November 11th, 11 AM, VFW will have their remembrance ceremony with the dedication of the ceremonial burn pit immediately to follow. Deb was able to get donated concrete and decorative block from Sparta Ready Mix and 5-foot round burn circle from Peerless Concrete in Butler. DPW assisted with removing the asphalt so that the area could be formed out. Very excited that the town and VFW will have a formal location to retire American flags in a dedicated ceremonial area. Exterior flag mailboxes are due to arrive this Thursday and will be in place for Veterans Day, and a formal invite will follow. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Dixon,
Nothing from me at this time. Thank you.
Councilmember Teets.
I just want to thank Tom and the superintendent of the school system. The liaison between the council and the Board of Education. And I brought a couple of things to Tom's attention, both during the meeting and after the meeting. And it was good timing because he and Dr. Piccarello were meeting. And so some of the things that are happening at the school will also be at the school parks. Like, for example, Miriam Avenue will also be happening at our town parks. So that's a real nice situation. And then on the day that we do the Flags of Honor, we'll be recognizing a student whose Veterans Day pin was selected in a competition. And so it's a great honor, and he'll be at the Flag of Honor. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Diglio.
Okay. Just a reminder that the holiday parade is the Saturday after Thanksgiving, and anyone who wishes to participate, please contact me. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor LaFois.
Yes, I have a couple of announcements. as hopefully most people know, the polling locations are open. There are 3 places to go vote now. Particularly if you're not going to be around during election day, I encourage you. I went down on Saturday when the polls opened at the county clerk's office right down the street. System is pretty efficient, lots of people online, but that's just great to see a lot of people exercising their right to vote. On October 18th, Michelle and I, along with Tom and many members of the staff, attended the Sussex County Economic Development Partnership Awards, annual awards luncheon. Proud to report that there were Newton nominees in every single category. But specifically, I just want to call out some congratulations. Our own Kimberly Williams won the Business Advocacy Award. Thor Labs won the Business Investment Award. The Culinary Institute of Sussex County the Sussex County Community College Program won the Training and Workforce Development Award. And Rob Boyle and Planet Networks won the Distinctive Leadership Award. So once again, Newton was well represented. Tom had some wonderful nominations in there as well. So, thank you to everyone who nominated and attended and our winners. It's nice to see Newton getting recognized for the good work that happens here, specifically around economic development, our businesses as a town, et cetera. And then on October 22nd, I attended Daisy's Candlelight Vigil, where I presented the proclamation we read into record at our last meeting. I just want to point out that Officer Wolanski was there as well as the DVLO, and his experience with working with domestic violence fallouts. He's a 40-hour trained officer. So thank you. I see 2 of our officers and future chief in the room tonight. I think Newton really leads the way in terms of partnership with Daisy for both the domestic violence call outs and the sexual assault work that's done here. That's not to say that Newton leads the county with those calls. It's the work that our volunteers and officers do to support the other department and the state troopers in the work around domestic violence and its advocacy. So thank you. The mayor and I on the 23rd attended the planning board meeting. We finally had one because there was some work, but nothing too much to report on, except for we did have a presentation by the county to talk about the technology that they have been working on for the last several years. It's their GIS, speaking of GIS technology. It's a parcel document viewer map where you're able to put in any address in the county and look at all kinds of information, probably more information than you wanted to know. But I thought that was a good presentation, and just I think we've come a long way as a county to have all of that at our fingertips, as opposed to sitting in files and files down at the county office. And just so that you know how that plugs into the work that we do here is for applications, construction applications, planning board resolutions, properties that are subdivided, all of that information ends up going to the county as well, and as part of their record system. So GP Pro can probably talk a little bit more about that. And then on Friday, October 25th, I was able to attend Project Self-Sufficiency Season of Hope kickoff. So this is their annual toy drive, and it was remarkable to hear so many comments, but to also know that they provide about 2,500 kids in and around the Sussex County and North Warren County area with toys for the holiday season. And so their Season of Hope has officially kicked off. And so if you are involved in an organization or a Boy Scout troop or a corporation that is looking, and also they work with the Marine Corps and Toys for Tots, they're a beneficiary location. But if you are looking for a place to donate toys this holiday season, think about Project Self-Sufficiency. As I said in my comments on Friday, if you're able to make a donation, I think it's our responsibility to do so. So many of the people that attend their 2 days of shopping, reflect that they wouldn't be able to provide holiday gifts for their children if not for the services and the project that Project Self-Sufficiency provides. It was also great to hear, Future Chief, that the Newton Police Department is integral in that process and helping with crowd control and parking and shuttling from the college and all of the things that happen for them to serve those 2,500 kids over 2 days. So thank you very much for the town's support, because I understand that our officers are donating their time for some of that work. Flags of honor, the holiday parade, the tree lighting ceremony, they were all mentioned before, and I think those are my updates.
Thank you very much. Just to stem off of what Mr. Russo was saying regarding our recycling program. I really think that the recycling staff has done a fantastic job over the past few years in completely revamping what we do, putting it into overdrive. It's almost to the point of needing to put a list out of just things that we don't take instead of what we do take. In regards to Ms. Becker's comments, you know, I think that a lot of what we see definitely is known. It's unfortunate that, you know, we have to deal with certain absentee landlords who don't necessarily have eyes on what's going on here in town. And unfortunately, it is something we have to deal with, but we have to be able to manage that as appropriately as we can. So, you know, we don't have customers trying to enjoy, you know, what we now permit with sidewalk cafes being disturbed by some of the activities that are going on the street. So looking forward to a much larger conversation on that part as well. Since it was brought to our attention, a good public relations, public health campaign notice. There is a rabies clinic coming up for anyone who's interested, and for anyone who doesn't know, rabies is an extremely preventable disease. If you are vaccinated for it, I'm sorry, if your pet is vaccinated for it, if you come in contact with it, obtaining a vaccination as soon as possible is very helpful, because rabies is maybe the most virulent virus out there, with almost and maybe 100% fatality rate for anyone who acquires rabies. So vaccinations are an easy, simple, very cheap, free for taxpayer way to obtain a vaccination to protect your pet and protect yourself from this extremely deadly virus. And with that, we'll move forward to a presentation that we have this evening from our code enforcement official and construction official.
So Mayor, as part of our goals, council asked for department heads to come in and talk about their departments. Tonight, we have Mike Monaco to talk about property maintenance, Joe Budo, our shared services partner from Hardiston for construction, and Carrie was able to juggle her calendar, which I appreciate, to talk about all things planning and zoning. So Mike, why don't you come up to the plate first?
Good evening, everybody. How are we?
How are you?
I know everybody here. See you all again. I prepared a short presentation, PowerPoint presentation. Stand over there.
No, just bring the mic closer to you.
Sure.
Just speak to the document. I can't pull it up with the.
Okay. So I hope that you guys all got a copy of it.
We do.
Very, thank you. Very briefly tells the cooperative efforts that Joe, Carrie and I, the county fire marshal's office, the county board of health. We all work together to try to keep Newton beautiful. That is my primary goal. I affectionately call myself the grass and garbage guy, but obviously there's much more involvement with whatever doesn't look right, whether it's a fence that's falling down, whether it's weeds, whether it's a property, as you saw, the brick structure there that was falling down. I work cooperatively with Joe to try to get those things rectified, not only so they're look nice, but they're safe for our community. Along the routes that our children, the children of town, in town, or the cyclists or the motorists come through town, we make sure that sight distances are proper and clear of growth. And I've helped the Board of Health with sanitation issues, rats. I think we all talked about from time to time. There was a cluster of them. We think we've got that area cleaned up. And yeah, that's the long and short of what I do. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them of me. I can go through each of these photos if you're interested. So the one with the weeds is an intersection that has a sight distance issue. So there were concerns about the kids going back and forth to school. That was just before September. The bricks here is a structure a couple blocks away that is falling down. Joe and I are working on that to try to get that resolved. You can see a property, a residential property that we believe is being used as a commercial property, as a staging area. The gentleman there seems to acquire stuff and then get rid of it, but it's really unsightly for the neighborhood. Garbage issue on Main Street that was abated. That's the old farm store. Some graffiti that I think was funneled through the council or the manager's office at one time. We were able to get that cleaned up rather quickly. We'll call that a residential area where there were 5 structures that were recently removed. And cleaning that area up was a headache for us for quite a while.
The property across from Thorlabs.
It is, yes. Major issues with that property, and then you'll see the large tree and the decorative fencing for property on Main Street that I'm sure everybody recognizes. Our public works guys, who we also work in tandem with, did a great job. Those are some before pictures, early spring. I don't think that was summertime. And then the afters, the guys spent a lot of time there for the initial cleanup. Probably needed a hay vine to cut that grass initially, but they were able to remove, I think at one time there was 7 or 8 dump trucks full of clippings. And then the last picture is a nice frontal shot of our Benchmark property. So that's some of the stuff that I've encountered and we've been able to abate. Most of the people that I deal with are responsive to me, a phone call, a knock on their door. They can take care of this in a couple of weeks, and most of the time it's done in rather short order. But some of them, the larger properties, sometimes the commercial properties or properties that are bank owned, become very difficult for me to get a hold of people and to encourage them to do the right thing. The notices sometimes go unanswered, and frustration on my part, and I'm sure you guys are fielding phone calls from people wondering what's going on with this property. It's just very difficult to even find out who's responsible for it. Litigation oftentimes is associated with them, and it kind of hamstrings me, handcuffs me as far as what I can do.
So that was gonna be one of my questions,
Okay.
is the timeline, right? So obviously, some things are quicker than others. Hoping, maybe assuming a little that most people, if you're showing up on their, doorstep, they know they need to address it. So hopefully that happens more rapidly.
Most people are very responsive, Mrs. Teets, and knocking on their door, a phone call, usually it's handled. I don't even have to put it in the computer. I'll take care of it tomorrow. I'll take care of it this weekend. I'm compassionate to people's financial situations. A lot of times I try to encourage them to seek help from family members or neighbors, young neighbors that are available to come and help them. Try to be creative with how long. If you tell somebody 2 weeks to cut their grass, I think that's reasonable. If it takes longer than that, we'll have the conversation with them and hope that they get it done. The commercial properties and the larger properties that have been bank owned for a long time, I could name a few of them, become problematic. And then that's when the phone calls start. The neighbors are calling you and they're calling me, and it's frustrating for me too. I'm very limited in what I can do. The first notice, the second notice, and the summons, it's great, but if they're not cleaning it up, those are really not very effective. That's not what we want. We don't necessarily care about the notice or the summons. It's about making and keeping Newton looking pretty and nice, clean.
I like this brick one. right?
Yeah, that's a residential property, a couple blocks away. That's a danger to the neighbors, to the people that live there, and it's unsightly. So we have a collaborative effort, Joe and I, and we've noticed them, and they're going to be working in the next couple of days to get that either raised, demolished or rebuilt. But we think it's probably well beyond being able to be restored. It's a shame. It's a beautiful old house. It's an 1880s house, and it's just been neglected for way too long, and the weather has gotten into it.
Thank you.
How do you come across most of the property maintenance issues? Is it a phone call from residents? Is it as you're kind of going around and
On patrol.
investigating on patrol, like formerly, like what is it? And if people want to bring something to your attention, what's the best way to do that?
The best way is to call my office. I'm responsive. I'm there 8:30 to 3:30, Tuesday through Friday. The town manager's office, the Civic Plus program is great. It's very efficient. It's filtered to the appropriate department. If it's mine, I take it. And a lot of the stuff is I drive by and I go, wow, I gotta get out of the car and knock on that person's door. And sometimes it's people that are just, they're overwhelmed. And I have to be compassionate with them and give them time, understanding that cleanups are not cheap. A dumpster, a 15, 20-yard dumpster is several $100s. And then you need somebody to get all that stuff out of their yard or their property and into those dumpsters and get it removed. So most people are responsive, but oftentimes, not oftentimes, a few times, it has to go to notice and it has to go to summons. And those are the times where it's frustrating and aggravating for everybody. Because you would hope that, oh, I'm responsible, I'm a business owner, I'm a landowner, a residential owner in town. And I want to take pride in my property, but some people have the means and some don't. Yeah, but a little bit of everything, phone call and email, coming into the window. People come in to talk to Jackie or Teresa about water and sewer or tax issues. And they say, oh, code enforcement, I gotta go talk to that guy. I've had a few people knock on my door about fences, rock walls, trees. A lot of the stuff may not be under my purview, but I take the initiative and I call them and say, hey, can you clean this up? And they're like, yeah, of course, we forgot about that or didn't realize it was an issue. Or I make the referral to Joe's office or Carrie, and they're able to handle things pretty efficiently.
Out of curiosity, now that Miriam Avenue house has been cleaned up, who's been mowing the lawn since the initial cleanup?
The Public Works
Really?
workers have done it. They've done a total of 3. Until we get that whole situation ironed out, they'll continue to do it. And once the snow and the ice starts forming, they'll continue to maintain that. There's a lien process that is in place, and we've moved forward with getting that to the proper through the proper channels, and that'll happen next year. But they're continuing to maintain the property. There's a couple properties in town that they help with, and they've been great. I mean, I ask Adam for help, and he assigns workers there usually within a few days. They're great. But that was a major and continues to be a major headache for the town.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have any questions, but thanks for coming.
Okay, my pleasure.
Joe, can you come up?
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's Mike.
My timing wasn't so great today, but this is just a brief summary of what I'm about. I'll be a little more brief than Mr. Monaco. I can keep this to 3 minutes, I'll do it. Joe Budo, construction official for Hardiston and the town of Newton. I'll just read this. It's a two paragraph memo. Just as a brief summary of department permit activities with the attached sheet and some numbers for you if there's a numbers person on the council. Aside from the mundane plan review, issuance of permits for new construction, alterations, our department has been handling, as Mr. Monaco indicated, an increasing number of owner-tenant complaints, work without permits, unsafe structures, and the high incidence of vehicles into buildings. And that's throughout the county. I think we had 13 so far this year.
Vehicles into buildings?
Yeah. So maybe some driver training might be in order. So, but through the combined efforts between code enforcement, zoning, historic, and the police, we have ironed out a process, the process of notifying and alerting those department heads who has jurisdiction immediately, and to follow through to alert and to notify all departments, involved, so that we each know what the other is doing in the process. And again, as Mike had indicated, that it's never an easy task, but when we're all on the same page and we know what the other departments are doing, the goal of compliance just becomes that much easier, because in a lot of cases, they're faced with maybe starts as a police action, which may go to a zoning, code enforcement, maybe health department. And ultimately, if it's a construction issue, when people are faced with possibly 4 or 5 different departments coming at them for whatever the activity is, they tend to respond a little quicker. So on that side of things, it's just business as usual, and it's usually a reflection of the economy and activity, for construction with permits and without. Just this past Friday, I was in town with my assistant, Dave Hammerly, on 3 complaints that were issued, or we were notified, and 2 were additions that were going on without permits. And we did take note of the roof issue at 155 Spring with the slate, which was taken care of. So that's where that is. That's just an ongoing, ever, normal practice day to day. The permit activity trends, which you see on this page, the numbers is, that's the figures from the first of the year to the 28th of October for 22, 23, and 24. That's the only current data I could come up with. So, and the numbers do reflect what's been happening in Newton. In 22, we had a substantial amount of activities. That's the total fees line, which is 10 lines down, which was a very high year for the town of Newton. The Water Street project had just started. Thor Labs was finishing up 43 Sparta Avenue. In 23, we had the main, the Brooks Plaza project going on. And then this year we're at, a lower number, but again, typically when new construction starts to wane, then the alteration work picks up and we get more rehabilitation projects coming in. The total cost line, which is 2 lines down, that's the total cost and value of construction that's occurred in the town. So in 22, you had $22 million worth of value, 19 and 23, and 13 so far this year. So you can see, there's always a fluctuation there. And it's just a reflection of activity, economy, political, presidential election, things start pulling back. So there's a little reluctance to move ahead with some projects. But there is one number that I do want you to take note of, and that's the 4th from the bottom, and that's the waived fees. And this is for all entities that are exempt. One being the town of Newton. And the second is the biggest, which is the county of Sussex, which as the county seat, you hold the keys to the palace here as being the county seat, and you pay for it. So in essence, what we do in our department is this year, there's $58,000 worth of permit activity work that we do for no compensation. They are not allowed to, nor, we're not allowed to collect, and they're not, obligated to pay fees. So that number is always is a number that, both of us endure the suffrage of, doing the work and also not receiving taxpayer or tax monies for those properties. But, that's that. So anyway, the activity seems to be in line with the typical contract that we just ironed out last year for the 5 years, starting this year. So, I think we're pretty well in line to follow the numbers that were, put forth in that budget. So unless you have any questions.
For the council, that's a
Sure.
question. You don't do all this by yourself. You just at least on the record and for the public and the council, talk about your other staff, that they work hard, you have inspectors, you have technical assistants, some of us might not be able to interact with them if you don't mind, just.
Oh, no, not at all. I don't want to bore you with all that, but
But you should, because there are staff and directors, you know what I mean, so they do a lot of work for us.
yeah, no, we do have, a department we have 3 clerical staff. 2 are technical assistants. They are, licensed by the DCA. The other person is a clerical. So April is our head technical assistant. April Havrick, Sarah Bright is the other technical assistant, and Karen Ossalone is the clerical staff. They are all full-time, and they do a magnificent job of handling and juggling all 6 towns that we cover. Dave Hammerly is my second in command. He's my assistant to the construction official in my absence. Isaac Mester is a building subcode official who just came on full-time in July to give me some relief from that position. Your electrical inspector, Greg Shontow, he's a Newton employee, but he is, a part-time employee on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We also have an electrical inspector, Andy Simonis, who's an electrician he was from Newton. He covers the other 5 towns. He works 2 full days for us as well. All of our staff on inspectors and subcode officials are multiple licensed, which means that instead of having 3 to 4 inspectors, you could possibly have 2 or maybe 1 person. So the effectiveness and the of the personnel is such that we don't waste time, and people don't have to wait around for more than a morning or an afternoon for an inspection. We can generally give them a 4-hour window. We're way better than the cable company. It's not 7 to 5. Generally it's an AM or PM. And if we need to, we will schedule something on a timed appointment. But, circumstances will dictate that. But all of the staff have, I would say, our subcode officials are probably at least 12 to 15 years experience. Our clerical staff has at least 5 years experience. That we are in a new program, the Mitchell Humphrey online, which the portal is open. So there's been a big learning curve for all of us, especially the dinosaurs like myself, who are not as savvy with computers, but in the long run, the whole process it will be a lot easier because of the technology and availability. I can go downstairs right now on my laptop and pull up information that I couldn't have access to before. So, between that and computer upgrades to our systems in Hardiston, we do have a construction at Hardiston email, which is a general mailbox. And that goes to all of us as well. So we all share that. So there's no missing link. If Tom doesn't get it and your staff doesn't know what's going on, in this case, everyone gets copied on it. So it's been an effective way to eliminate missing information, as well as comply with the state's order in April that inspections be submitted in writing. So it's worked well.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for your time.
What's the county doing that we have a huge increase in the waived fees this year? What's the big?
There were a lot of upgrades to schools.
Okay.
Heating, HVAC systems in all of your schools.
Mhm.
The county building on Hampton Street underwent some renovation work there. There are other buildings, even the county jail. If any of those, any building that's county owned, and a lot of what they do when it comes to construction work, the fees are based on the cost of work. So the value of that work is what's reflected in that waived fee. So, if it was new buildings, that would be a little different story, but, most of the work that they do is rehabilitation. And of course, the cost of work under,
Oh, we know we have our own
Contract.
HVAC issues this summer.
well,
so we're-
the same thing with, work here, whether it's here, whether it's down at the DPW garage, firehouse, all of those projects are part of this number. So, this is waived by statute.
Right.
So, any municipal or county entity is fee exempt. So
Yeah.
that's, all right. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you for having me. So there's a little presentation, I guess, in your packets as well. I am responsible for the day-to-day actions in the planning department, zoning, and historic preservation. And as the other two gentlemen have said, we all work very closely together. And if people see Mike and I out together, if people see us out together, usually they know there's trouble. So, for zoning, basically, we try to explain to everybody just about anything that you do to your house, inside, outside. The first stop should always be planning. New construction, additions, decks, chickens, sheeps, goats, you all need zoning approval. And if you do get your approval, great, you move on, whether or not you need to go to the construction department. If you get denied, there's different steps that you can take. There's you can always appeal my decision, which we've had a couple of those in the last few years. Or you can seek site plan variance applications before the planning board. Part of the job too with all of that is enforcement of zoning and of the planning board. So if somebody comes in and gets an approval from the planning board, you have a resolution that stipulates everything that you have to do. Paving, landscaping. So one of the tasks that I am involved in is making sure that you do all of those things that you're supposed to do as per the resolution. Historic preservation is sometimes tricky here in town, as everybody knows. So we're trying to iron out a lot of the kinks there. We're coming up with new policies and procedures that will be taking place. And we just performed our yearly training session for that. One of probably the biggest role is the complaints and violations in town, which never seem to end. So Mike and I are usually out there. We're usually the first line of defense. As we all know, we just heard the 155 Spring Street. So usually we get phone calls. We get phone calls from residents, businesses, neighbors, that people are doing stuff without work. We'll go out and do an investigation and look to see like what's going on. We reach out to the construction department, Joe, his staff. We get information from them. We decide whether or not they do have permits, if they don't have permits, and then we have to go through a process with the residents or the business owners and explain what necessary steps are required. And sometimes it can get frustrating on their part because sometimes it does take a little bit longer. If they do have to come in to replace their roof with the historic preservation. So sometimes, we kind of have to work with people and try to, get them to comply. Because that is always like the ultimate goal that we want is people to comply with everything. We want to keep everybody happy. We want to keep the town safe. We want to keep all of our buildings looking pretty in the historic district and all throughout town. And we want all the neighbors to get along. We don't want people calling us up complaining that there's ducks and chickens out there. So. Yes. So this year, we have about 120 zoning applications as of now. We've had 4 applications before the planning board, 4 new applications this year. We did have 2 applicants that carried over from last year that took some time to get through the year. Historic preservation, we have 6 applications that were before the historic board this year. And some have withdrawn and some will be coming back. So hopefully we'll have about 2 more there for the year. So yes. Any questions? All righty then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Gary, thanks for coming in and checking our schedule.
Thank you.
We'll now move to the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the town council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Mr. Russo, if you would not mind a rundown of the items, please.
Sure. 258 authorizes a premium payment to the treasurer. 259 is disposal of surplus property, which are vehicles through municipal bid. 260 is the appointment of chief of police and contract with Joseph Dianabel. 261 awards the SCADA PLC project. 262 is the leave payout for Tom Muller, and 263 is bills and vouchers.
Thank you. Are there any items that a member would like to remove for separate discussion or vote?
I'd like to remove resolution 260-2024.
Okay, any others? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 260-2024.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 260-2024.
Sorry, I don't know.
Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second. Sorry.
All right, discussion?
I think I will start since we just received the contract today. Okay. I do not have a problem with the appointment of the chief as Joe. However, I do have a problem with the cost of the contract. So that is my contention.
All right, any further discussion?
I agree. I have the same contentions with this. Just this is a trend of setting the table for the next and the next, and at some point, we're gonna get to obscene amounts. So.
Mr. Russo, any input?
Yeah, so Chief Van Nolen, as approved by the council, is at 180,000. That was retroactive to January 1st. He's at 10% longevity, so his total cost was 198. Acting chief, I'm recommending at 185, both now and January 1st. So throughout next year, he's at 8% longevity January 1st. So his cost for the town is 199.8. So the only delta we're talking about here is $1,800, which over the course of a calendar year or 26 pays is $69 per pay period. And that's my recommendation is the 185, both now and throughout next year. And then he'd have subsequent raises for 2026 and 2027. All of the salaries recommended are within the range approved by the council for the position.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'll just add doing some homework, not having a lot of time, but compared to other departments and, throughout the county, Morris County, Warren County, Sussex County, it is in line with, you know, their salaries, so. And yeah, I don't see an issue, like, I support that.
I agree. We had a very healthy, robust debate when negotiating our current chief's contract and knowing what was ahead of us in terms of pay wages, contract negotiations. I mean, when you look at this, the differential is in longevity, and the contract's been negotiated for, 8%, then 10%. And so when you look at the overall difference, I think what's been requested and negotiated for acting Chief Daniels is within reason. And certainly, as Michelle has said, I have personally taken a look at the public information for police chiefs that not only have similar sized departments, demographics, but all the additional responsibilities that lie under our police chief, having to do with animal control, domestic violence, shared service agreements, a dispatch center, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I do not think that the salary is out of order, which is why I offered to move the resolution.
And for the sake of disclosure, I am conflicted in the discussion as a result of the employment relationship of my father. Is there any further discussion? Okay, a roll call?
Mr. Dixon,
No.
Mrs. Diglio,
No, based on what I said.
Mrs. LaFois,
Yes.
Mrs. Teets.
Yes,
I abstain.
So now what?
Vote.
Council?
It wouldn't pass.
It would pass?
It would not
It would
pass.
not pass.
Yeah, it's 2-2. Abstention doesn't go with, there's no majority to go with or no.
So for my colleagues that voted no, what are you proposing as the next steps? Because the candidate meets all of the requirements. The contract's been negotiated in good faith. We knew about the retirement of our current chief. What's next?
I personally would like to be able to have the opportunity to look at the information available for the county as far as the salaries go, which I did not have the opportunity, not having the contract until this afternoon.
As a point of order before we continue, does this discussion need to continue in executive session as a contractual relationship?
If it's gonna get into that, into numbers and into, yes.
Okay. So for the sake of order, perhaps we'll table this discussion for an executive session at the next meeting or a special meeting?
Well,
Might
then,
need
I
to be
mean,
called.
I know a vote already happened, but then I think we should have just pulled the resolution and tabled it to the next meeting so that the additional due diligence or whatever could have been done. What's the matter of process for that now?
I mean, you can always bring the resolution back. It's not,
Okay, so I would.
so it's the same effect. I mean, whether it's, defeated or tabled. I mean, if you're gonna just bring back the same resolution, then either way is,
It's a resolution, it's not an ordinance. It doesn't require the same, extended meetings. It would just be.
you just put it right back on the next agenda and vote again, if there's a motion in a second, of course.
Mayor, if I may.
You may.
Just to give me clarification. Councilman Dixon, is there anything that would cause you to change your mind, or are you pretty much fixed on the topic? Meaning you had an issue with Steve at 180, Joey at 185, it seems, and it's, obviously perspective, there's a frustration or a concern about the salaries overall of the position. So is there anything on that topic? I guess the same question for Sandy, and you don't have to give me an answer tonight, because I would say for my next step, because obviously my recommendation doesn't change. So to help facilitate Matt and Sandy's decision-making, I can work with the staff on salaries for the chiefs in Sussex, Warren and Morris, right? And we can get that to you, and then we can you know, I might be Charlie Brown with the football, but it's gonna be the same resolution, honestly, for the next meeting, which is November 13th, which is the day that Steve has his walkout and Joe takes over. So I guess the question is there any other data that you would be looking for to help facilitate the discussion for Sandy and Matt, other than, salaries of police chiefs in, the neighboring, because obviously I wouldn't pull Bergen County because they're through the roof. I'm not going to pull Cape May. But I think Sussex, because, Andover Township, Sparta, Hardiston, I think their contracts are pretty robust. And maybe some are not, right? So I think Sussex, Morris, Warren, if that's fair, I can pull those for you.
Yeah.
And then really, obviously Helen and Michelle are favorable, but it's really speaking to the concerns that Matt has that are legitimate, and Sandy. But it will be the same resolution because this is my recommendation. This is my hire. The contract I think is reasonable. I did review it with Jim. The only other two changes in the contract were the terminal leave went from 320 to 400, which is better for the town because we push him out earlier and we don't have to pay. And there was one legal under the miscellaneous, the one paragraph that Jim reviewed about defense of any particular issues that might come up. So really, in the end, it comes down to compensation. So if it's okay with the mayor and the group, I'll start pulling that information together for you, and then, see if you guys have more of a comfort level. And I do apologize. Kat was supposed to send this Friday. It didn't go out Friday, so you lost the virtue of having the weekend to review it and maybe to get back to me with information I could have pulled. So that's on my department. So I apologize for that. So if that's okay.
Is everyone amenable to?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So we'll proceed with the remainder of the consent agenda. Are there any other items that someone would like to pull off?
There are no others. I'll offer the rest of the consent agenda as presented.
I will second that.
Roll call?
Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
Mrs. Diglio,
Yes.
Mrs. LaFois,
Yes.
Mrs. Teets,
Yes.
Mayor Kus.
It'll be an abstention on check number 11835. Yes, otherwise?
11835. Okay.
11835, yes. Now move to our second public session this evening. The same rules apply. Anyone in person who would like to speak, please indicate so by stepping forward to the microphone. If anyone on Zoom would like to speak, please indicate so by raising your hand. Not seeing anyone in person or online, we'll close the second public session and proceed to any final council or manager comments this evening. Okay, not seeing anyone, we'll then move to our next section, which is an executive session. In this session, we have resolution 224-2024 carried from the October 16th, 2024 meeting, which is a resolution providing for a meeting not open to the public in accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act and JSA 10:4-12 for the purpose of attorney-client privilege. I'll entertain a motion to enter executive session.
I'll make a motion to enter into executive session.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Roll call?
Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
Mrs. Diglio,
Yes.
Mrs. LaFois,
Yes.
Mrs. Teets,
Yes.
Mayor Kus.
Yes.
Hey, Mayor, you have two members of the public that just raised the hand feature. If you want to give us an opportunity, they just raised their hands.
Sure.
First one.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, we can.
Sorry about that. Peg Baldini, Baldini. I also have concerns about the salary that you guys listed. I think I recall something that I read earlier that if Mr. Russo has in his contract somewhere that he has to be the highest paid. Sorry, I'm having a brain moment here.
I used to have in my contract, Peggy, that I had to be the highest paid employee. That language is no longer in the contract.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you so much for that.
No charge.
Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you.
Hi again, Mekash. Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, Dr. McChodge, you can go ahead.
Mekash. Also, I have a question in regards to the salary as well, and I understand the manager has done some work and about comparables with the other townships in the county. Do you take in consideration the fact, for example, just I'll give an example because I do not know how the other towns surface is. For example, Newton has a surface area 3.2 miles per square, and Andover has 62 miles per square. When you decide such a thing, so this is one. Do you take this thing in consideration when it comes to the sophistication of the job and etc.? And number two, that I was going to ask, do you take in consideration when it comes to the salary, the experience of the candidate? Do you start to the minimum point? I mean, I know that when you go to the salaries like this, every times, I mean, when it comes to the big companies, there are a lot of credentials that are taken in consideration, especially to the experienced one. So I'd like to know about this, you know, how do you base that? How do you, I mean, decide? Because to start right away with 185, I mean, nothing against the police because I am the first one to support them, but we talk about the salary, and I'd like to know how do you base that?
Sure. Mayor, if I could.
You may.
Yeah, so Ludmilla, we're a civil service, so the first step is to make sure that we're hiring somebody who's eligible based on civil service. Second, obviously, we have a superior officer's contract that governs sergeants and lieutenants, and logically, the chief will make more than both the sergeants and the lieutenants. Third step, obviously, is to look at the incumbent chief to see where he or she might be at in terms of their salary as a benchmark. Doesn't necessarily have to govern my decision as to who I hire or what I recommend, but it does come in. Fourth, this is the county seat, so we look not just miles in terms of 3.1 square miles. We look at call volume, the type of activity, the way the department is structured via the chapter in the code, animal control operations, detective bureau, the fact that, you know, we have a lobby area where homeless people and other people may come in. We have dispatch services. So there's other things that factor into my decision-making as to who I recommend and the salary I recommend to the governing body for the purposes of the contract that we've laid out tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I cannot recall if we completed a roll call to enter executive session. I think we did.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So as that has happened, we will close the third public session and actually enter executive session now at 8:20. Members of the public would not mind excusing themselves. We would appreciate it.
Mayor, could you just state for the record if there's any
Oh, yes,
action
yes.
may or may not, or maybe Dominic can do the Eric speech since Eric's at the Yankee game, which was one.
Well, I think this matter we're conflicted out, so I can't give you the spiel, but I haven't
That's
been
right.
advised that there'd be
Yeah.
any formal
So
action.
no, we will enter executive session and there will be no formal action taken thereafter. There's no business after the executive session. We will adjourn.
Thank you both.
That's my understanding.
Joining from, are you adjourning from session or coming back and adjourning?
We will come back. We will come back and adjourn. Thank you for keeping us honest.
You always.